Okay, so welcome to Linux Basics for Hackers. My name is Christine Padilla. Full birth name, Maria Cristina Padilla. Everyone calls me Christine or Chrissy. It's a hot mess. I have 10 million names. It's pretty amazing. So the purpose of this particular presentation is to convey the 20% you need to know to be effective when using Linux and Linux distribution. All right, so Linux commands, things of that nature. And it's when taking on learning Linux, it can be really confusing, especially without a roadmap. It can be very overwhelming, a little daunting, and everything is definitely in a different language, you know, so it could be a little overwhelming, at least in my case, when I first started, which was not that long ago. Intimidation is, you know, one of the words that definitely was to be had, but also excitement. So in this presentation, we're going to be looking at Linux essentials that will help you become effective and efficient when it comes to just using Linux skills. And this in turn could take you into pen testing or hacking. So together we're going to be covering what's really important to know, all right? And it's also known as the Pareto principle. And that states that we focus on the 20% you need to know so that you can be very effective. All right, so what that means is we're going to be covering things like file management, time permitting, of course, you know, directory management, changing permissions, understanding the different modes in which you can change permissions. We're also going to review some group and other permissions, removing permissions, right? A lot of permission stuff. Then getting into ownership. We'll get into grep and piping so that you can go ahead and find a matching pattern. We'll review finding and locating files. We'll enumerate distribution and kernel information so you understand what the lay of the land is. We'll take a look at some bash and shell configuration, just to introduce you to some of the system files that you can manipulate and take a look at. And of course, disk usage, file compression, archiving with Tor, and we'll get into just a starter package, just enough of what you need to know pertaining to networking as it pertains to ifconfig and netstat. And then we're going to look at something on how to anonymize your traffic, specifically through Tor and proxy chains, okay? And we'll round it out, again, time permitting, because it's, you know, we'll see how fast I can go here. We'll round it out with understanding how to review your processes through, you know, even I'll introduce an interactive display as well, and how you can go about killing certain processes and identifying them. So that is the roadmap for today. I'm hoping that this is going to be a starter, you know, an intro into a series. I'm pretty sure that's what we're working out for you guys. So this, think of it as part one of many to come. So let's go ahead and get started. So, you know, this will serve, the purpose again is, this is an intro to those who are getting started with Linux and want to have a solid start on how to navigate in a Linux distribution. All right, so the first thing that we're gonna go ahead and get into is, let's understand where we're at, right? So whenever you log into, I'm using Ubuntu, so basically we open up a terminal window, you wanna understand what directory you're in, and I'm gonna talk fast, everyone, so, you know, bear with me here. All right, you just simply print working directory and it lets you know, okay, right now I'm in home. So like, for example, if I wanted to change to desktop, this is changing my environment. I'm changing, oops, I'm sorry, one second. Let's try this. Give me a moment here. Yeah. Okay, changing the directory to home, you'll see that the actual syntax gets rerouted to the actual directory that you're at. You can keep drilling into it by changing to your desktop. Okay, let me try that one more time, everyone. What's going on here? And if I'm a little slow, it's, again, Boston has had its way with me. Let's see. So there we go. So now I'm actually on the root level of the user. And okay, so that's navigating in general, but let's understand the lay of the land. So if I want to know exactly where I'm at, I do pwd, and it lets me know I'm in the home directory for the user Chrissy, right? Now, if I want to take a look at a variety of different directories, there's different commands that you can utilize. The first one, of course, is let's just list the directories that are found under Chrissy. All right, so it gets distributed in, you know, kind of a row and column manner. You know, it's fairly easy to follow, except that if it gets really, really robust, it can be a little bit challenging. So there's additional arguments that you could append your commands with. So for example, if I want to list all files and directories in a list format, ls-l, okay, and now we start to see, you know, more robust information as it pertains to each file and directory. All right, and if you look at it, it could be a little cryptic, right? So what we're essentially looking at here is we've got permissions, you know, as it pertains to a variety of things. We'll get into the breakdown of that. Who the user is, we've got who the group is, we've got some size information, date and stamp of last modification per directory or file. Now, if I want it to be just a little bit more human readable, let's go with something like that. And you'll notice that everything starts getting, you know, the sizes become a little bit more clear. Nothing else really changes, except that if it's appended with a dot, we're looking at some hidden information. Okay, so moving forward, I mentioned how to change directories. Like for example, if I want to move, let's say, let's go into pictures. Okay, I believe it's case sensitive. Okay, so basically CD and then the directory that you wish to change to. If you want to get out of there, let's go ahead and go up one level. If you want to go back to the root, which is where we're at, the home directory of the user, you do a tilde, which is where we're at right now. Okay, so moving forward, trying to be as fast as possible, lots to cover. All right, let's talk about creating files. All right, so going back to the ls here, I'm going to go ahead and change to our desktop. If you hit tab, you'll be able to go ahead and see how to you know, autofill the rest of the name of the directory. So very good. So let's go ahead and just create, I don't know, task.txt. That creates a blank file. If you want to take a look at the contents of it, well, right now there's nothing there. It's blank. So therefore, we just go to the next line. However, if you want to echo something, so for example, like you could, no matter what command you use, you can go what is, and then, for example, echo. Right? Well, I want a display of line of text. So if I want to echo Linux is cool, yo, it's cool. All right, there it is. We end up displaying that line of text. Now, let's say I want to reroute that statement into the test.txt file. All right, so the way that you would do that is you can go ahead and utilize the same thing, except you're going to append it with the following syntax. I want to place this line of text into, what did I call it? Test.txt. All right. Cat allows you to view the content of a file. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Look at that. Now it's populated with Linux is cool. That is not a display on the command terminal. That's actually pulling the text from the file. All right, so that's really redirection into an output, and we inputted it into the text.txt file. If I want to make a directory, you make dir, right? And I'll just call it homie, because I am LA, right? So in order to go ahead and make sure that it made it into, you'll see that I start to have a new directory there and our new test file. And these are other efforts, which we'll get into in a little while. Now, if I want to move test.txt into directory homey, right? So mv test dot, the name of the file, and then of course the destination, and there we are. If you do an ls, you'll see that the test file is no longer there. Let's change directory over to homey and do an ls in there, and you'll see that test is in there. Fantastic. So that's moving. Now, all of this is being recorded. For those of you that are taking notes, right on. Rockstar is very, very fast, especially if you're new to it. However, you know, rest assured that you're not going to be left behind. There is a recording. All right. So let's just say, for example, I want to create a new directory, right? And we'll just call it Homet. I don't know why this is coming out, but there it is. And then do an ls. You see I have homey and Homet. So homey has content, Homet does not, right? So if I want to remove a directory that does not have content, all you have to enter is rm and then the name of the directory. Okay. Wait, what am I doing? No, it would be recursive. Stand by. Right, to remove a directory, apologize, it would be recursively, you want to Homet. Okay, do an ls, and then you'll see that it's gone. You can, let me go ahead and make the directory again. And I want to do that one more time because it did not have content, right? So for example, if I want to remove a directory that does not have content, you can also do remove dir and then the name of the directory, right? So first, let me do an ls so you could see it. And then we remove dir and then the name of our directory. Okay, and then let's do an ls, it's gone. All right, if we try to do remove dir to homey, remember it has text, it's not going to let you because it's not empty. So that's where the previous command of the recursive removal comes in handy. Now be very careful with this, obviously, because you don't want to, anything that you delete, you know, with this level deletes its subcontent or subfiles. So just be wary. So ls, it's gone. Everything is gone. All right, I'm going to remove the file tar for later. Okay, fantastic. So moving forward, that's removing files, making directories, moving. And let's talk about editors. Now, everybody's got their favorites flavor. Two popular editors include Nano. Let me see, do I have a file in here? No, I don't. So let me make a quick file. Touch sample.txt. Okay, we're going to go ahead and let's say I want to add content to sample. There's a variety of ways, but if you just want to open up an editor and enter your information, the first one, and the one that I am leaning towards more, shockingly, is Nano, and then you enter the name of the file, right? So we want to go ahead and nano our sample text. What's this? Okay, we've got a blank canvas, right? We've got a bunch of commands that you can utilize on the bottom. Let me stretch this out just a skosh. And this is my sample file. And then to exit out of here, you do a Command X. You get prompted to save changes, capital Y. And then it's going to say, okay, do you want to write it to the same file name? And if you want to modify that, you can do so. But let's keep it the same. To confirm, again, we want to cat our sample. And there's that. Okay, so that's one editor. Let's say I want to use Vim, or you know, you could use VI. It's a same type of thing, but just a different interface. Here you have to hit an I to you know, start entering more info, right? And then to get out of here, you do a colon. Wait a minute, what am I doing? Apologies. Okay, you do a colon. Wait a minute. Wait. This right here, everyone, is why I'm leaving. Okay, that's not working. So Command C. Give me a minute here. Colon Q to get out. Now it's a hot mess. I don't like it. I want to get out of here. In fact, I hate it already. I'm going to close it out because I do not play nice with it. So you just saw an epic failure there as far as my preferential use. But for those of you who don't get easily confused, as some others do, you can go ahead and utilize that editor to your choice. All right. So now moving forward, I want to go ahead and head back to the desktop. Okay, ls, give me everything that I'm looking at here. It's not human readable. You add H at the end if you want it. Directories are highlighted in blue, files in white. You can customize this through one of your bash files. We won't be covering that, but that's something you could look up. Let's see here, but I want to look at it human readable. So understanding the columns. Permissions, I think I mentioned this, user, group, size, date and file, date and time of modification, and name of the directory or the file. So now let's get content. Let's create a new, I want to create a new executable file, right? And the way that I would do this, I'm just going to call it test sh. You'll see that it's available there. Let's go to the human readable. You'll see that it's available right there. Okay, so great, that's lovely. So now what I want to do is, it's empty. So let me show you another way of populating a blank text. So let me clear it out just to make it friendly here. So there's existing files out there. So for example, your password file. So if I want to take the content of the password file, and this is just, it's not really a live use case, but something to do, and I want to redirect it into our executable, that's how I would do it. So let's take a look at that file, and you will see the contents of the password file are now populated into that soon to be executable file, or yeah, file. So next, let's make a new directory, and I'm going to create test. Let's call it test like that. Do one of those. Okay, so now we see that we have test directory, and then we have our executable there. Moving forward, let me see what else I can do here. So let's take a look at the permissions of the .sh file, which is potentially an executable file. But if we try to run it through this command, test.sh, you'll see that permissions are denied. And that's where all this stuff starts to come into play, right? A little intimidating at first, but there's two ways of handling permissions. They include symbolic mode or binary mode, okay? And the three types of permissions that we're dealing with here. So let me clear it out and give you the permissions again. So the way that it's broken down is, if it's a file, it starts with a dash. If it's a directory, it starts with a D. Then you have three sets of three, okay? So that's the way we start to break it down. Looking at the executable, for example, the first three sets of characters, I'm trying to highlight it right there, are communicating the characters for the owner of the file, right? Who's the owner? Chrissy, that's me, right? All right, second three characters right here, we're taking a look at the group permissions. And the last three characters, we're taking a look at all other users of the system. All right, so that's starting to demystify the situation a little bit right there. Give me one moment here as I navigate a little bit of Zoom. Okay, occasionally muting as I cough behind the scenes. All right, so the next thing that I want to do is I'm going to just kind of do a couple of modifications to the test file. Now, basically here, all I'm doing is just entering some blank information, redirecting it. You don't have to worry about it too much, but basically I'm just redirecting blank content into the executable. So for example, if I look at the executable here, it's got nothing is showing, right? So let's go ahead and echo hello world. Hello world into, wait for it, our test.sh file, right? So that way, if I go and try to run this again, as mentioned a little bit earlier, permissions are denied. So we have to provide it with executable permissions. So let's move forward with doing that. So if I do ls-alh, taking a look at all the permissions, let's start by understanding symbolic mode permissions. I mentioned that there are two types. They're symbolic or binary, also known as octal. All right, so we'll get into that shortly, but we'll start with symbolic mode, and it has to do with read, write, and execute in conjunction with the chmod command. That's chmod. So if I was set to the current user, which I am, I would then just basically chmod, give me a u, and then u equal, all right, so that says chmod user, right? And then you set the permissions. All right, so moving forward, so basically what we're looking at is chmod. We're saying, okay, we're going to take the user and we're going to give it give the user Chrissy executable permissions, right? And basically, I want to just make sure that it's everything. So in order to do that in the symbolic mode, I want to read, write, and execute permissions for the user, and then to what? The file in question, okay? So then we enter that, and let's go and take a look at our permissions, and you'll see, again, the first three sets, are the first three characters of set one, right, is me, Chrissy, the user, right? So I now have executable permissions associated with that file. Okay, so now I want to modify the executable to print hello as we run the executable, right? So I'm going to go ahead and nano into test.sh. Okay, hello world. In order for it to go ahead and echo back onto the screen as I run the executable, I want to add echo, give me some quotes here. And I think that's going to be good. I'm going to exit out of here. So basically, I'm just, preparing it to give me a prompt when I run the executable. So now when I run it, drum roll please, test.sh, voila. I have permissions to run the executable, and I modified it so I can, confirm the printout as such. Okay, so let's get into group permissions, right? That was owner permissions. Now we're going to move forward to group permissions. How are we doing on time? Fantastic. I'm going to try to speed it up just a skosh. All right, so group permissions, the way we're apply, it's the same thing because we're using the symbolic mode to apply the same permissions to all users and groups. So the way that we would go about doing it is chmod, okay, so same command, except this time you can either group all, group others, and you start to kind of filter into who you're going to modify it to. So for this case, we'll do group and others. And because you'll see right here, we've got no executable, and then others can only read. The group can read and write. So group and others, and then we're going to equal that. Oh, there we go, equal. And we're going to do read, write, and execute, right? And then to what? Wait for it. The test file. Oh, wait. Okay, sh. Okay, so then let's take a look at our permissions again and see if that took. And now you see that all of it has been modified. So everyone and their mom can run this executable, right? So good stuff. So that's how you go about modifying the group and other permissions. Now, let's just say, for example, you want to move forward with removing permissions, okay? So, so let's remove the write and executable permissions for group and others. And the way that would look is chmod group others, right, equals write and executable. Am I doing this correctly? No, not equals, apologies, minus, okay, minus, we're getting rid of, okay, the writable and executable permissions as it pertains to test.sh. Okay, so if we do the check everything out, we now see that we've removed those permissions appropriately. Now I mentioned earlier, okay, so that pretty much covers symbolic mode, right? So now we're going to get into probably the more popular, although I'm a symbolic girl myself, I kind of dig it, but you still need to know your octal or binary mode. And we still use chmod, right? Except when using octal or binary, your RWX, your read, write, and executable, is now denoted by a binary format, okay? So R is represented by the, okay, so here we go. So it's basically, it's kind of like, I don't know, numerology. That's the best way I could compare it to. Certain letters are equal a certain number, right? So the way that would work is R for read is represented by the value of 4. Okay, so R equals 4, just so you know. And W, which is write, equals 2. Okay, then you have executable, and that is represented by the value of 1. So in order to get rid of write and executable for the owner of the file, right, in octal or binary mode, the way that syntax would look is, again, we're still using chmod, and we're going to move forward with, let me see here, we want to get rid of everything. So this reflects the value of read, read, read. Again, read is represented by the value of 4. So we go 4, 4, 4, okay? And then we do this for the test.file, okay? Let's take a look at what happened, and voila, it's gone. Okay, so that, you see that the permissions have updated. Now, let's give the owner read, write, executable permissions. Okay, so here, and I know I'm going a little fast, but there's a recording, and additional resources on this can be found online. But this gives you a nice little, like, the gist, all right? So now, giving the owner read, write, and executable permissions, we need to add binary values together. So again, R is 4, W is 2, X is 1. This equals 7, right? So we say chmod 7 for the owner's permission. It's read, write, and execute. 4 for read permissions for the group, and 4 for all others. Okay, so to what? To the file in question. So we enter that, take a look at the file, and then here we go. We see that the owner has more love than everyone else. Okay, so that is really taking a look at it. The math is pretty simple. You know, just remembering what the letter and the corresponding values are. Again, I encourage everyone to go ahead and look up binary or octal mode permissions, you know, to get a little bit further, and, you know, it can get pretty wicked as you move forward. Okay, so moving on to the next topic. Changing directory permissions. Okay, so let's see what we can do. Let's clear this out. Whoa, 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 whoa. What happened there? Let's try that again. Had a little computer spillage there. Okay, so changing. Let's change permissions for the directory that created earlier. Again, let's take a look at what's on our desktop. You may recall that we created the test directory. Okay, and so to change permissions to the directory, again, for the user, group, and others, we enter chmod. Okay, and then this time we go, let's say UGO, user group others. Let's get rid of the read, write, and execute for the test directory. Okay, and then we take a look at it, and you'll see nothing is going on for the test. Nobody can do anything with it. So that's a little bit of the directories. So changing one more time, if we switch over to the binary or octal mode, let's go ahead and chmod the permission set of 644 to test. And we start to see that the permissions are also modified. So if we want to apply recursively all permissions to the file and the directory, let me reconfirm that we have a file in test. So cd test. Oh, permissions denied. Look at that. Ha 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 ha. So let's chmod 7 there we go. So now I'm able to get into it, and let's see if there's anything in there. There's not, so I'm going to create a, blank .text file. All right, so let's go ahead and nano into, well, actually it doesn't matter. We've got content in the test directory. So I'm moving up one directory. And again, the point here is to recursively apply permissions. So let's see, the way that I would go ahead and do that is first let me move, all right, okay, now that's, we have the blank file in there. So the way that we would do that is chmod recursively everything in test, right? So wait, it helps if I actually add the command itself. Let's see, the 777. Okay, and then we take a look at the permission settings. And you'll see that it's actually applied there. And then let's go into test and list out applying recursively the permissions. You'll see that it's not only on the directory, but it's also on the text itself. All right, so that's a little bit of, permission settings as far as that is concerned. Now, let's take a look at ownership. Excuse me for a moment. Let's see. And that uses a different command. So I'm going to go ahead and clear out of here, cd up one level. Let's get out of there. Okay, ls. Okay, cool. ls alh to take a look at the permissions and whatnot. So we're going to now, in order to change the ownership, right, that's different than having permissions to the directory. So changing the ownership has a different command, and that command is known as chown, C-H-O-N, O-W-N. And so what I want to do is let's switch to the root user. So let me sudo up. Okay, enter my password. Right on. So now I'm in root. And let's take a, let me see here. Let me see, sudo bash. Let me go back 1 second, I digress. Okay, so let's go ahead and navigate back to the correct directory, which is test. So let me change directories. Stand by as I'm catching up with my own self here. Okay. All right, let's go to that desktop, back to where we were at, and then we're going to go ahead and change directory into test. And we're going to take a look at the file that's in here again, so ls.alh, right? And we see that the blank doctext is owned by the user Chrissy and the group Chrissy. So let's just change the owner. So the way we do that again is chown, and then we follow it with, we want it, the new user of, or, you know, we want the user of root to own that file. And then you enter the file name. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm still thinking test sh. Oh, that's why I went up to root. Stand by. Okay, so obviously I don't have permissions to do that. So let me, again, sudo back up to root. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and change back into, let me see where I'm at. Change directory desktop. Ah, what's happening? Oh, I know what I did wrong. You know, I ended up changing it to root when I should just sudo bash. So stand by. Sometimes these things do happen, everyone, even while teaching. So I'm going to go ahead and switch user back to Chrissy. Okay, change directory. Let's change directory one more level. Change directory home. Oh, joy. Okay. Pretty straightforward when I'm entering. It's basically, I'm just trying to ensure that I'm in the right part of town. So again, I want to change into test. And here, sudo bash. Okay, and now I'm root. See how it changed over to root? Okay, so let's do an ls, ls-alh to look at the permissions. Chrissy owns everything. Let's change that. So chown. And then again, as I was mentioning, we're changing the ownership to root for the file blank.txt. Okay, if we look at it again, we see that it's changed. Sorry it took so long. These do happen. Okay, so now let's take a look at group ownership, all right? So here's the group, right? So we changed the user for this file. Let's change the group as well. So the way to do that is you use the chgrp command, right? So change group command. And first, let's see the groups that belong to the root user. So the way that you would enter that is groups root. And you see that user root belongs to the group of root. You could also do this for Chrissy. So if I go back to myself, switching user back, and you do groups Chrissy, these are the various groups that I belong to, right? All right, so what we want to do is move forward with changing the group. And I believe I have to go back to sudo bash to get back to root, right? And we're going to bust out that new command, which is change group. And again, we want root to be the group owner, right, of the blank.txt file, right? So let's take a look at our friend here. Whoops, wrong party. Let's go into ls.alh. And you see that everything has changed over to root. Okay, so that is modifying ownership. keeping it moving forward because we have 2 hours and we've got an hour and 15 minutes left. We're going to get into grepping. So anytime you want to learn about, a new command, you could always go what is, and then for example, grep, right? It prints lines matching a pattern. Grep is your friend, everyone. Grep is your friend, especially if you want to get a little wicked. So there are 2 ways to use grep. The first one is by using grep alone, and the second is by piping the output of another command into grep and then finding what you're looking for. Okay, so for example, on here, let's see. Let me take a look at sample. I want to take a look at what's in sample. TXT. Okay, this is my sample file, right? So it's something kind of simple. There it is. But like, let's say, for example, we want to find a certain string in there. Let me add some more. No, actually, let's move forward with that. So what if I want to look for a certain word within a certain file? That's where grep comes in. So grep, and then the word that you're looking for. Let's say I do, how about just sample? Because it's in there, right? So, and then I'm looking for the word sample in my sample text. And then it gets highlighted. But what if I did it capitalized? Nothing returns. So grep is case sensitive. So the way that you would get rid of any type of sensitivity, especially if you don't know if it's capitalized or not, is very similar to what you did earlier, except this time you append it with a -I. Okay, so it's kind of like an insensitive call, and you enter that, and then it gives you. So, for example, if I did this capitalized, right, voila. Okay, we don't have to worry about the world of any of that case sensitivity. All right, so I'm going to switch back to myself. Oops, yeah, switch user to Chrissy. Okay, cool. All right, so here's another example. What if I want to take a look at, all things Chrissy as it's found in the password file, right? You enter grep. And then, of course, your string surrounded by quotes, and then the location or the file itself. And so all instances of my name as found in the password file are highlighted. Now that is, option 1, using grep alone. Moving forward, what if you, now let's look at piping the output of one command into grep, right? And again, the pipe, which is denoted by this character, which is right above your enter key, you hit shift, and then that \pipe character, it looks like that character there. So basically, the pipe is the preferred method for passing the output of one command and processing it with another command. All right, so let's say I want to look at my inet information as found in ifconfig. Okay, so this is a really great example. So ifconfig, piping it, right? And then I want to grep, let's look at all my inet information in there. And it just strips out the information that you're calling, right? So that is the other way of using grep. All right, so let's clear out of there. Whoops. And keep this party going. So finding files with locate. Basically using locate utility to find files is how, and how to use it in conjunction with grep. Okay, so for example, what is locate? Again, what is, it gives you, okay, find files by name. Fantastic. So locate, I mentioned the password directory. So, or the password file, that is, and locate that. And it gives you every instance, right? So it could be, the results are kind of large, right? And this is not efficient, especially if we're looking for a particular file. And this is where you can specify options, right? So let's shorten this. by going locate the string password, and let's grep. I'm looking for etc location, right? Well, you know, if you already know where it's at, it's kind of, you know, but this is how you use it, right? So you enter that, and now we start to, you know, kind of refine our results and kind of, you know, get into it. You can kind of see how this can become helpful when trying to locate your information, and it helps narrow down what you're seeking. So now we're, you know, as we're talking about locating things, let's talk about the find utility or the find tool. So again, what is find? In this one, you search for files in a directory hierarchy, okay? So how do I want to tackle this one? Let's see here. Oh, okay. So if you do sudo find and then specify the directory that you want to search in, let's say desktop. Maybe not. Is this correct? No, I'm doing it incorrectly. Stand by. If I do, okay, I'm in the current directory, that's why. So if I want to find anything in the current directory, I append it with a period, right? So this shows me everything that's within that, you know, location. If I want to look for the entire system, you can go sudo find, find, and then backslash. And this is the entire Linux file system directory. As you can see, that's kind of juicy. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. So I'm going to control C it. Okay. So it kind of goes on and on from there. Now, if you want to look for an individual directory, you can go sudo, let's find everything that's in home and the user Chrissy, right? And this is the individual directory. And voila, that's, you know, the information as it pertains to that location. Some other things that you can do, you can start getting a little bit more. Let me see here. Let me see what's on the list. I'm going to create a file, touch, and then I'm going to call it tester.txt. And now I want to sudo find the type, and I'll explain what I'm doing here in just a moment. Let me just get it in correctly. Name. Okay, so let me explain what I just entered right there. So basically, understanding the commands. So first, I want to make sure to sudo up. It's just, you know, so you can appropriately search for things without any restrictions. And then understanding the commands, you see that I entered, okay, then I said, okay, find, that's the utility, right? And then the backslash is the entire Linux file systems directory. And then I say, okay, well, what kind of type of information am I looking for? Well, F is, it's a file, right? You could also enter D if you're looking for a directory. And then you follow it with, okay, that's named, right? That's, you know, so you say it's going to have the name of, and then you put it into a string. And then it gives you every instance that it has. And then, of course, there's some areas, even though I was sudoed up, that I'm not able to get to. But that's a little bit outside of the context of this conversation right now. So that's how robust you can get. Now, with any utility that you utilize in Linux, the one thing to remember is that you could always look at the man pages as it pertains to the command. And then if you scroll through there, then you're able to just see all your different options, right? Or arguments that you could utilize to complement your efforts. Cool. So let's get out of there. So man pages, they're your friend, get to know it, you know, and then also what is, if you just need a quick, what the heck is this? All right, moving on to the next thing. We're doing great on time, everyone. Thanks for hanging in there. Let me have a sip of water. All right, now we're going to take a look at enumerating distribution and kernel information. And so here, we're going to find out what the user is, or what we're logged in as, what the host name is, what the user ID is, et cetera, et cetera. So let's look at basic user enumeration, okay? So, all right, who am I? Look at that, I'm Chrissy, right? So that helps identify what user you are currently logged in as. Okay, host name. It tells you the current host name of this workstation or computer. In this case, it's Ubuntu. All right. You could also modify the host name, and so basically, to do that, you would sudo, and then of course I'm starting to use nano these days, because vim wrestles with me, etc. Right, and we're going to go into the host name file. Right. Look at that, Ubuntu. So, you know, I'm not going to change it, but here's where you change it, right? So if I wanted to call it something else, that's where you would modify that information. So let's get out of there. So cool. So let's keep moving forward with basic user enumeration. So ID gives you the current user ID. It gives you, and it gives you the group ID and other groups that this user is a part of. Now, this is also, remember, I just mentioned, you can move forward with that information right there. I want to make sure that everyone is muted. Okay. Fantastic. Okay, good. All right, so now let's look at system enumeration. Okay, so that's some basic user enumeration. System enumeration, let's find out some system information. So that's LSB release, and then we want all of it. So this gives you now, this is not available on every Linux distro, but it is the command that I just entered, but it is default in Ubuntu, right? So it tells us our distributor ID, the description, the release, and the code name, which you know, gets changed over time. All right, so okay, so that's cool. Well, let's take a look at some other stuff. So give me information about the processor and CPU. Well, there we go, right? So, you know, what are we looking at, you know? So you can go ahead and analyze the information as it pertains to your, how many cores you have and whatnot. So that's pretty cool. So that's something to note. What about kernel information, right? So that one is uname, and then give me everything. So that's every, you enumerate the kernel information, right, as it pertains to this system. Now it has some other arguments that you can go ahead and kind of narrow it down to. Like, for example, if I was to do uname s, that's going to give me the kernel. All right, well, it's Linux. If I want to take a look at the version, okay, there is the present version. If I want to take a look at the instruction set for my processor, let's take a look at that. Okay, it's x86_64. And if I want to take a look at, say, for example, the operating system. Okay, so it's a GNU Linux. So you can start to you know, parse out the information through those available arguments. Fantastic, everyone. Let's keep it moving. All right, so let's get into shell and bash configuration. Okay, fantastic. So let's, okay, so shells and bash configuration. So these are the various types of shells that you can use within Linux. If you're on a Debian-based distro like I am on Ubuntu, the shell that you're using is bash, right? And to confirm this, you would enter echo, wait for it, give me my shell, right? Look at that, I'm bash, right on. So we would look at, what we're gonna look at is how to change the shell that you're working with, right? So in order to do that, let's head on over to cat. Let's take a look. First, let's see all the shells on my system, right? So let's see what we could change it to. And so if you cat into the etc shells location, you're able to go ahead and see all the different shells that are available on this particular system. So, you know, we've got dash, we've got bash, we've got r bash, and sh. So, okay, so if I, how do I switch? Okay, so how to switch from shell to shell within a terminal instance. So let's say, for example, I want to switch to the sh. I just entered sh. See this $sign? That means you're now in the sh shell, right? So if you could enter, where am I? You know, like a print working directory, give me some information, all while in that particular shell, right? But what if I want to go back to bash? Well, you just enter bash. Now you're back in bash. Okay. Oh, how about dash? Now you're in dash. Bash. So that's how easy it is to switch within the terminal instance. Now, by default, bash, let's see, what if you want to see what the default is, what the default bash, or I'm sorry, the default shell is for your user, or what they're specified to use. The way that you would go about doing that is cat etc password. You know, I want to take a look at, you know, and I want to grep, you know, basically I'm just pulling information on the user, or grepping information on the user Chrissy, right? And you'll see right here that the default for this user, or the default shell, is bash. So that's how you're able to go ahead and extract shell information from there. All right, move. Moving forward, let's change the shell of the user, right? So yeah, you know, you could change the shell within a terminal instance, but that doesn't necessarily change it for the user. So that's what we're going to focus on now. And you use this through the chsh utility, okay? Let me go ahead and chsh utility. So the let's take a look at what the etc shells has to tell us once again. And that gives us a list of the available shells that are on the system. And moving forward, sorry, I was prompted through Slack. So let's enter. Okay, I want to switch it. So HSH. Sorry if I got it wrong incorrectly. And then you're prompted for your password, right? So because you can't just do it. You need to like enter your password. So wait a minute, what did I just do wrong? Probably CSRCHSH. Enter, and there we go. I just did a typo. So here is where you know, you could enter the relative path, right? That's why I pulled it up, the relative path to the new shell that you want to switch over to. So I'm bash, right? And you see that that's bin bash. So I'm going to do bin, let me try that again. Let's go and switch it to dash, right? I'm just going to go ahead and make that the default for Chrissy. So you enter that, okay, and let's go and cat that information, and you see now that it's dash. Pretty cool stuff. But let's talk about bash because that's the most used shell. So let's look at our bash hidden files. Actually, let me change it back. I want to change it back right now. Yeah, let me change it back before we move forward. Bin bash. Fantastico. Fantastic. Okay, great. So let's talk about bash. Okay, so for this, let's look at the hidden files. So the way that I want to do this is, let me get here, ls alp s, all right, and then I want to grep all things bash, right, and hidden bash. So there's that information. This is, yeah. Let me try that again. There we go. I was in the wrong directory. Okay, great. So you'll see here, of course, it starts with a dot, so it's hidden. So these are our bash hidden files. Bash history is a history of your commands, and bash logout. Okay, that's pretty self-explanatory. And then bash RC is a bash configuration file, and it allows you to change variables, change the size of history, change color. You know, it's a pretty cool playground, something to check out. But for now, let's talk about bash history, the bash history command. And this is not to be confused with the GNU history, where if you enter history, here's every command that I've made within this particular terminal session, if you will. It's a totally different thing. So let's go back here. So let's talk about it. So by default in Linux, you have the history command, and I just shared that, the GNU history library. And that allows you to see the histories of the commands that you've run. Bash history is specific to the bash shell. So let's take a look at bash underscore history. Okay, cool. So that gives you a different set of information. Again, this is specific to the bash shell. Okay, it shows a history of commands, and this is helpful for clearing your tracks, people. It's really helpful to go ahead and clear your tracks. So that's why it's different, right? One is GUI, one is, you know, more locked in stone. So to clear it, right? So how do you clear it? You may have seen that I did this a little bit earlier, where I'm like taking this dev null, which is like nada, nothing, for those that are not Espanol friendly. So, and then I want to, you know, output it into the, pardon me, the bash history file, right? So double checking my syntax, it looks pretty hot. Okay, great. So let's confirm it. You noticed that before we had a little something going on in there, and let's see if we do now. Nothing is there. That's the, you know, that's a great way of clearing your tracks. So that's that. Just a brief introduction. As I mentioned, I want to remind everybody this is a part of an ongoing series. This is just getting our feet wet. You know, if you want to, you're a little hungry to just get started and start playing. This is kind of what the basis of this initial part 1 is all about. In the upcoming series, we're going to get deeper and deeper and deeper. Okay, so I invite you guys to stick around as we move forward in the meetup. Okay, so right on. So let's take a look, and now let's discuss and focus on enumerating information concerning your disk usage, storage, and the various disks attached to your system. So, you know, we're going to do that through the du utility. So what is du? Okay. It's an estimate of your file space usage. So if you do du, this is kind of crazy because it gives you way too much information. It's a little overwhelming, and it's well, not necessarily, but you know, it's not user friendly, right? So, but that's how you get started. You will see it displays all the sizes of all the files that is within this particular directory recursively. So let's go, if I'm not there already. Yeah, okay, cool. Excuse me, sudo, and I want to go ahead and do a du and dash sh and do something like that. Okay, so here it summarizes the results in a human readable format, and really human readable just kind of turns things into, you know, sizing that we were able to see. So what did I just enter? Okay, so it summarizes the result in the human readable format. The S means summarize. So let's look at the command I just did, right? So S means summarize. H means human readable. And then, you know, and then it's just like, you know, wildcard it and giving all your stuff. All right, so let's move forward to the next one, which is what is df. Okay, and this is a report, the file system disk storage. So if we just do a df, Okay, now we start to see different information, right? This is where things get a little bit more laid out. And this is really friendly for troubleshooting, or, you know, identifying, and, you know, or, you know, if the forces are with you, hacking, you know, and figuring out information. So let's make it a little human readable. So again, we love us some -h, right? And again, it just turns everything into a much more readable format. And you can see the column headings for everything, right? So this is the file system, the size, what's used, what's available, the percentage that's used, and the disk that it's mounted on. So let's say I want to take a look at just my storage devices, right? And in order to go ahead and do that, we're going to bust out some grep skills, right? So we want DXH, right on, let's pipe it. And just give me the grep of our storage devices. Okay, and so now you see that we grepped, you know, we piped it, piped our output for the storage devices only. So this is really great on honing in on information on a case-by-case basis. Okay. Okay. All right. So now let's move over to file compression and archiving with tar. Okay, so this is creating archives, tar files, gzip files, and extracting them. So let's start with our what is, you know, okay, it's a GNU version of tar archiving utility. Right on. All right, let's get started. So yeah, let me go ahead and change directories. All right, so on my desktop, I've created a few things here, right? So you'll see that I created a directory called file. Let me see if there's anything in file, because it's been a little hot second. Great, there's a little something in there. So let me jump out. So there's something that I can compress, right? So that's my intention. So how would I go about doing that? So let's create. So the way that we would tar it is we, you know, use the utility tar, and then we're going to say compress. So C for compress, F the following file. Oh wait, no, standby. What am I doing? Yeah, sorry, I was doing it correctly. So tar compress the file, and basically then you say what you're going to name your file. So I'm going to call this file dot tar. Okay, and then it's like, well, what are we compressing into the something called file dot tar? Well, give me this directory, right? What did I do wrong? Stand by. Oh no, it took it. How weird. Okay, so you'll see now that we have the file.tar. Okay, so that compresses the information. To confirm that it worked correctly, you can file and then file.tar to see, and then it tells you that it worked. It's actually not working. Give me a second here. What's going on? ls, and then I want to cat what's going on in test.txt. Okay, yeah, that's just the user of the password stuff, so that's cool. So get me out of here. And I want to say LH. Give me a second as I troubleshoot this real quick. I'm going to remove the file.tar and clean up all 5 a little bit. Okay, so file, yeah. So let me try my tar information again. And let me look at my command. What did I do wrong? Tar, file.tar. Let me get rid of this. Okay, there we go. Didn't want the slash. Rockstar. Okay, so yeah, I threw an extra slash in there. You know, that happens. All right, so that's how to go about doing it. Now, how do we move forward with extracting the information? Well, right now we have that file directory. So let's get rid of it, right? So that way, when we extract it, it just doesn't overwrite what's already there, but you can do that too. So the way that you would extract it is tar, and then you move forward with, again, compress. And then this one I want to be verbose. And that gives you a verbose output in regards to what files are being processed in the archiving process. And then you give me the file, and I want to file. Okay, wait a minute. .tar, right? That's what we want to bust out. So let's give that a whirl, and that didn't work. What did I do wrong? 1 second. Okay, yeah, how about X, everybody? Yeah, that's extraction. Yeah, okay. So great. So now, because we have a verbose output, we're able to go ahead and see that it is a directory of file, and it has the contents of test.txt. And if we take a look at our environment again, we see that our friendly file has returned. Okay, so let's look at another utility called gzip. Okay, similar party. It compresses and expands files. Hold on, I gotta cough. 1 second. Okay. All right. So the syntax for that, tar. Actually, let me first do an ls-alh, and I'm going to get rid of that file again, right? So I can demonstrate what I'm doing. Remove -r and then file. S-L-A-H, Rockstar. Okay, so we're going to use the tar, and then we're going to actually, yeah, to extract it. So basically tar, and then -x extract f, and then file .tar. Wait a minute, I didn't even create it. Stand by. I just removed the file that I wanted. So 1 second. Make directory file 2, right? And then I'm going to change directory to file 2 touch basic .txt. I'm not going to worry about putting content in there. And then let's just come up. And now let's tar and then compress the file. So ZF, and again, you could look at the options through the man pages. So you can man tar or man gzip. And then, so then we want to name it something, right? So file dot tar dot gz. And what do you want to name? Like where am I getting my source material, right? So let me just double check. And I did one thing incorrectly. Okay, and then that did something wrong. No, it's not working. It must be me, you guys. Let's see here. It has to be me. So tar CZF, and then I want to call it file.tar.gz and take it from the file. Oh, file 2. Duh. Okay, cool. So then, sorry for the delay. As I said, it's part of the game. It's part of the game. So you'll start to see that I now have this compressed file. And if I want to take a look at that, again, let's get rid of the file too, so that it doesn't, you know, get in the way, and we could actually see it come back. ALH. And again, if you don't remove it, it just simply overwrites the content. Okay, great. So let's extract the information. And this, I'm going to do a little shortcut. Tar. And then again, we want to extract the file, right, that is called that. And there we are, ALH, and there it is. File 2 is back. So fantastic. All right. So let's move forward with understanding a little bit of, yeah, we're doing great on time. Right, user groups and things of that nature. So let me go ahead and clear out of here. And let's say that I want to user add, I want to add a user called admin, right? Oh, apparently I already created them. So let's call them Bill, user Bill, right? Permission gets denied, right? And that's to be expected. So we need to sudo up, right? And now I'm in root, and now let's do a little user add, and let's see what we can do for Bill. Right on, it took. So let's modify. Let me see here. If I want to modify the information as it pertains to Bill, his permissions and whatnot. And I'm doing kind of a quick on this one because of time, but let me, if I want to modify the permissions that are associated, or at least add Bill to the admin group, right? So user mod, I want to modify, and again, I want to add Bill to the admin group, right? So I'm going to go add to group, and then I'm going to say Bill admin. Okay, and so let's go to sudo Chrissy. Fantastic. Change directory to here, and let me see if I could sudo. Yeah, I need to be in sudo, and let me add, oh, you know, somebody, let me see, Julie. Oh, what am I doing? Sudo user add Julie. Okay, fantastic. So now I'm able to move forward. So let's take a look at adding a user a little bit more in detail. I know I covered that a little quickly. So let me just take it from the top a little bit. So you can look at the man pages to see what your available options are, okay? But for these purposes, I'm gonna go ahead and remember I need to be sudoed up. And yeah, let me try that for the 10th time. All right, cool. And I want to user add, and let's go and say, make sure that this user has a home directory with its username appended. That's what -m does. And then I'm going to add a comment, right? And I'm going to say, we're going to call this, let's think of a user. I don't know who. Why am I spacing out? Paul. Yeah, let's just roll with Paul. Okay, we're just gonna, that's a comment of Paul. And we want Paul to have a, we want to specify the shell. And this is important if you want the user account to use a custom shell. So we're creating, we're adding a user who, and making sure that he has a home directory with the username appended through the -m. We're doing comment of Paul, and then we're going to specify the shell, and let's make it bin bash. Right on, right on. And then who? Paul, right? Not to be confused with the comment of Paul. So there we go. Now the user does not have a password yet. Okay, so sudo password, and then let's just do Paul, and then it's going to say, great, what do you want Paul's password to be? Well, you know, I'm just going to enter something basic, right? Right on. So that's how you modify that. You enter the new password. I can now switch over to Paul and enter the password that I just created. Right on. I'm in Chrissy's home directory. And there we are. So let me go back to myself. Fantastic. Pardon me. All right. So there's so much to cover with permissions, and we just don't have enough allotted time. And I want to make sure that we get to slightly juicier stuff before the end of our time together, which is at 3 o'clock. So, you know, just something a little bit basic before I get into Tor and proxy chains. But, you know, before I move forward, hold on, let me enter my password. Okay, cool. You know, just a quick thing on networking, right? There's so much to cover. I'm giving you the 20% to just get, you know, the party started. So IF config, right? This is the standard, right? You know, but what's happening lately, you'll notice that I am presently on, oh, it's not showing it here, but I'm on 1604. I specifically, here it is. I specifically chose 1604 because IF config is still available. 1804, which is not the latest, but the, you know, more up to date. There's a newer version, but basically 1804 got rid of IF config. Everything is switching over to IP. Okay, so let's talk about what is IP. Okay, and basically it displays your current routing table. So if I was to man IP and grep route, right, that shows me all available options. You can also just man the IP and drill into it, but you know, I love a good grep command. So yeah, so if we do IPADDR, right, and you enter, this displays your current IP information. It displays your local host, your Ethernet, your IP, your MAC address, and it's very similar to IF config. This is where things are going. You know, change is good, I guess, you know, but, you know, I wanted to go ahead and cover that. It gives you just all the information that you need to go ahead and drill into understanding what's going on with a particular system. Now let's go take a look at netstat. Netstat, what is netstat? Okay, it prints your network connections, your routing tables, and so forth and so on. Of course, there's man pages available for that. So looking at some options here, let me see. Okay, options, netstat -R. This is going to display your routing table. Okay, I'm not going to go into too far into what each line item does for the sake of time, but I just want to give you some intro here of what to look at. Okay, what if you want to take a look at or find the sockets that are listening for actual connections? That's a -L after netstat, so you're able to go ahead and do that. What if you want to look at just the TCP connections, or all listening TCP connections? That's LT. Okay, and so that you're able to drill down. And then you could also do UDP, so that would be LU, right? And so it really allows you to go ahead and narrow down some information. And then, you know, what if you want to display processes and process IDs? Let's do netstat-p. Okay, so you know, I just want to show you the commands on that. Don't want to devote too much time, but in future sessions we can take much more of a deeper dive into, you know, how they could be helpful for you. Now, the meat of it, I want to go ahead and end out with Tor and proxy chains, and if we have enough time, process management. So using Tor and proxy chains to anonymize your traffic, okay? Both tools do not come pre-installed. They can be found on pen testing distributions, but they do not come pre-installed. So the way that you would get it is, of course, you want to go ahead and sudo apt-get and then install Tor, right? And I already have it installed, thus it was pretty quick. If I want to start the service for Tor, I want to sudo -i. Fantastic. Now I'm in root, and let's do a system ctl, and I want to start Tor. Okay, but what if you're not sure and you want to take a look at whether or not that command actually worked? You could take a look at the status and you see that it's active, right? So right on. So there's that. So that's starting. Okay, so okay. If I want to listen to the TCP connection that Tor is connected to, I could do netstat -lt, and then I'm going to grep it. And here's the information of what Tor is listening to. I'm going to mute myself for coughing. Sorry, 1 second. Oh, I'm getting better. It's just been a long road. All right, so now let's head on over to Proxychains. Now that we have Tor, it's active, it's running, it's listening on port 9050. Let's do the same thing here and get some Proxychains up on this machine. So we want to sudo, right, apt-get install Proxychains. Oops. Okay, very good. And there we go. I already have it installed. So I want to take a look at the proxychains.conf file. So I would sudo and then nano the location of where it's at. So proxychains.conf. Yeah. Okay. And that's not going to work because I misspelled it. Stand by, please. Proxychains, everybody. Proxychains. Let's try that again. Okay, great. So we can use HTTP SOC 4, SOC 5, and this allows you to tunnel your connections through a series of proxies. In our case, the proxy is Tor with DNS, which is good. Options below show you how it should be treated. So basically, it just kind of goes into talking about dynamic chain, you know, strict chain, and you'll notice that some are commented and others are not. So basically, I've already done so. This was originally commented out. When going through here, I uncommented the random chain because each connection will be randomized. I also commented or I verified that the proxy DNS is not commented out. Make sure it's uncommented. And then at the very bottom, what I ended up doing is it just had SOC 4 for the local host and then the port, you know, that Tor is listening to. So I added SOC 5 as well. And then I basically just saved that and exited out. Okay, and so I'm ready to go ahead and use Tor to be anonymous. And so the next thing that I would do is, again, I want to double check that Tor is running. So sudo systemctl status Tor. Okay, it's still doing its thing. That's fantastic. So I'm going to switch users back to Chrissy, right? And we're going to proxy chain Firefox using Firefox and going to dnsleaktest.com. Since it's using Tor, the connection will be much more slower. So just like that, proxy chains, and then I'm going to use Firefox, and I'm going to go to dnsleaktest.com. Okay, so it's going to launch a browser because that's what I asked for. It's going to take us to, hopefully, I did the correct, yeah, there we go. So basically it displays what our DNS is and our IP, and this will test our DNS to see if we're leaking any DNS information. So I'm just going to do a standard test for the purposes of today. And you know, the reason it's important to see whether or not we're leaking any DNS information is because it can leak your geographical information, right? And this is kind of like, you know, little hackbill information. So as we see the results here, we see it, as you can see, the test result states that our DNS servers are in Germany. So it's great because our personal DNS info is not leaked out. There's additional information that we can go through, but you know, that covers the Tor and proxy chains information I wanted to do. I invite you to play with it, get to know with it, and we're going to go ahead and close out our session with a brief introduction to process management. And let me get another sip of water. I'll be right back. Okay, process management, right on. And the tools to use. So let me change directories down to the tilde, right on. And then let's clear out some of this noise. Okay, cool. So let's take a look at some of these. So what is top? All right, it's going to display your Linux processes. Now, this is really important because it gives you a list of what's utilizing your system resources, what's running. This is really helpful to see who's hogging what and why, you know, really great analysis stuff. So it's a great tool. So now, so if I did top, you'll see that the processes are laid out, and this includes the process ID. This is really important, especially if you want to stop, kill a process, right? The user, and it just gives you the CPU usage and additional information that really helps you. Now, this is great, you know, but there's another tool that I want to turn you on to as well. So I'm going to Command C out of there. And this is really all you really need. It's just a matter of understanding, okay, who's hogging what. But let's say that you're on a system that's a little bit more robust and things can be a little bit overwhelming. There's another option that you could use that's called htop. Now, this is not, you have to install it. So you'll have to sudo apt-get install htop, and I already have it, so it should be fairly quick, right? So right on, let's htop it, and you see that the interface is a little different, right? So basically it just gives you CPU, you know, it just gives you much more robust information. But the reason I dig it is, you know, you can click on the column and it will sort things for you. So that you can kind of say, all right, well, who's using more CPU? And, you know, it allows you to navigate the table as opposed to just sitting there and reading it. So I invite you to use that. Let's do a Command C out of there. Right on. So some other things that I want to share with you, like if you want to take a look at your RAM usage, you can enter free, and it's like, okay, well, that's cryptic, you know, so let's go back to our friendly human readable format. And that gives you the amount of free and used memory on the system. For processes, you can take a look at it by doing a PS. Now this displays processes in your current shell, right? So it's like, what is this? This is not really helpful. Well, okay, let's take a look at all your processes then, right? So you do that through this, and then it starts to give you much more robust information. Now, let's talk about, and we'll close out with managing processes. So again, I want to make sure that our sudo, that Tor is still running. We'll take a look at Tor. One second. Okay, great. So it's running. So I wanted to go ahead and do that. So you know, again, you could take a look at all your processes to kind of tackle who's doing what and whatnot. But because I just started Tor, you know, initiated Tor, you can utilize your grep or pipe and grep the information, right? So let's PS AUX. And then let's pipe and do a little grep action, and we're going to look specifically for Tor. Now it's going to return everything that has that that string. So you'll have to still analyze what's happening, and really what you're looking for is the Debian minus plus to identify the process ID, right? So that's how you would go about doing that. Now let's say, for example, Tor was just tripping and it's hogging a lot of resources, and you really just need to go ahead and kill it. And it's really simple. You just do a sudo kill, and then of course that followed by the process ID, which is in this case 623. Wait for it, 75. Okay, and then if I was to do the Tor again, you'll see that the Debian has disappeared. So I believe that is the show, everyone. That is Linux Basics for Hackers Part 1. As we move forward in the series, we're going to start getting a lot more sophisticated. I wanted to cover just the basicness so that we understand how to navigate moving forward. But, you know, we'll get into, you know, setting up Raspberry Pi. We'll get into, you know, doing logging rules and blocking devices and whatnot as we move forward. But that is it. That is the show. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask away.
All right, Chrissy, can you hear me okay?
Yes, who's speaking?
Linux girl.
Hey!
Anyway, I wanted to thank you so much for this.
You got it.
And right now it's 2:45. I was wondering, anybody else has any questions here? I mean, Linux is my personal favorite. You can tell my handle, right? So I'm so glad that you're teaching it. And like I said, there's still 15 minutes left. And are there any questions for Chrissy?
Okay. I'm thinking that's a really good sign. You know, people walked away with the information. So, you know, some next steps, everybody. What I would recommend is, you know, if, you know, I see some of my people in here, you know, and so I know you guys are kind of Linux pros and whatnot. So that's beautiful. But for those individuals who are just getting the party started, I recommend Linux Plus, CompTIA, explore that, especially if you want to get further along into Linux. And then I'll be working with Linux Girl and some other parties that are on, you know, in the group to set up additional training sessions. And if nobody has anything else for me, I think I'm going to, you know, retreat and have a little chicken soup and help myself out. So.
Well, thank you again, Chrissy. We're going to be probably putting the video on the Slack, and I know half of you guys are not on our Slack, so once I get okay from Dante, I'm going to post it on the Meetup page. Okay?
All right, everyone. It's been a pleasure, and shout out to the people that I know that are here, and shout out to those that I've yet to know, and we'll meet soon enough. So, if there's nothing else, I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting, everyone.
All right, thank you so much again.
All right, bye bye now.